Well, I have to tell you, first of all, that I'm really grateful to do this because as I have been traveling quite a different road in the last year and a half, um, Pastor Ho's given me the opportunity to go back and review things in my life that really made a difference when I began to tithe. And Peter and I got married in Smith Chapel in 1997. And at that time, we had just started a business and we had our four kids. We were recently divorced and we were living in Great Falls over off of Brennan Hill Court. Had a great house, it was lovely. We were starting this business, we're really excited. And the next thing you know, everything hits the fan. It's crazy. Um, the some of our clients didn't make payments on the things that they were supposed to do. Things were getting pretty tough, and we were going to Smith. We were going to Smith on a regular basis, and we were starting to join Bible classes and learn more about the Lord in a real personal way. So we're at the church one day, and Danny Sullivan, whose mom was a old member at the church. He lived in Winchester, Virginia, he and his family. They would travel all the way from Winchester, and I can tell you now, that's a good, 45-minute drive down. And they would, his wife was our music leader, and he was a member of the church and on the board, and his daughter would come and contribute and sing, and she has a beautiful voice. So they were a very, very big part of the church, and he gave his testimony one day. And he was talking about how he came upon a time where he needed to pay his taxes, and he needed $500. And and he said, and I just got to tell you, I just said to the Lord, I don't know where this is going to come from. I don't know how this is going to happen, but I need $500. Well, we're sitting in the front pew. Peter and I always sat in the front pew. And I nudge him like this. And I said, and we need $500 to pay our insurance. Let's see what God's going to do with that now. Well, the next Sunday, we went back to church. And in Fellowship Hall, there was a lady who told me I couldn't say her name or say who she was, gave me this envelope. It was Christmas time, and she gives me this envelope, and I'm thinking it's a Christmas card, and I'm like thanking her. And she said, no, don't open this in the church, and don't tell anybody I did this, and keep it to yourself. Just listen to me. I'm like, this is really weird. So Peter and I jump in the car to go home, and we had the two boys with us, my two sons. And I opened up this envelope. Now, this is a week after Danny has a testimony. I opened the envelope up, and a check for $500 fell out of that envelope. And I'm like, oh, Peter, my gosh, you don't understand what she's done. And he goes, what are you talking about? He's driving. And we're both just amazed. Okay. This was like God just said, you started tithing. I promised to make things happen for you. Well, this is number one. Well, we called and thanked her and the whole thing, and then we went back to church the next Sunday. And she comes up to me. She said, you don't get it. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She said, I sent you that $500. And when I got to my mailbox on Monday morning, there was a check for me for a settlement on a lawsuit that had been going on for years and years and hadn't been able to get resolved. And she said, my full payment was released to me when I released that $500 to you. Now, that to me was even more incredible than her answering our prayer. And so Peter and I at that point were like, whoop, we're going to tithe. This is going to work. We're going to tithe. And we did. But we also didn't just tithe. And as Pastor Ho was saying, there's other things that happen too. You need to give back to your church in ways that are good. You help take care of the church. You help minister the church. You work with others in the whole thing. So then later on, Peter and I get into really bad trouble. And, we're still making it day to day, but, we have to sell the house at Brennan Hill. And for various reasons, but, we had to sell it and we have to rent now. So we go over to Beaver Ridge Drive and we look at this house and we're so excited because this house is much like the house that we already have, but there's like more land and there's a nicer deck and the whole thing. And it's in our price range for renting. Well, so the lady sitting there, her name was Ethel May, and her husband was Lee, and she says, "Okay, so you guys really, I'm going to rent this to you. I've got some other people, but I just like you guys. I just like the vibe here." And she was a member of a Methodist church over in McLean, and She says, so I'll go ahead and run the credit check and we'll set it up. And Peter and I looked at her and said, well, if you're going to run a credit check, you're not going to rent to us. Okay. We have terrible credit. And she goes, really? And we're like, yeah, we've been in business. We've had to do all kinds of different things. And we've got our credit's just shot. She goes, okay, then that saves me $50. I won't run the credit check. And she rented us this house. Now, that was supernatural because she was a very anal woman, let me tell you. I remember that part. And we had a dog and a cat. And she said, well, we don't allow animals. We don't have dogs. And Sadie was like right there. They were over at our house talking about this, or the house we were renting. They were at the rental. And she goes, we just don't. And then Sadie's there with us. And she said, well, all right, I'll tell you what. You can have the dog, but no cat. So we did have to give away our cat, which was kind of sad, but my mom got the cat, so it wasn't that big of a deal. So that was like the next big deal that the tithing really had an effect on Peter and I. But we also recognized that we weren't just tithing, we were giving of our time and our energy and putting back into the church in other ways. And I think Twyla could testify to that. And then the next time, we've decided to sell the business, get out of the business, and just drop it. It's going terrible. It's too much time. It's driving our family crazy. And so I start looking for a job. And I had old friends in the business that were offering me good positions and nice places to work and the whole thing. And but I go to this little company because my friend Peg's there, and Peg's a Christian woman as well. And go into interview. And first of all, it's a townhouse on 14th Street. And I'm thinking, oh my word, this isn't even an office. And I walk up these stairs and I walk in this little reception area, and there's a conference room that they've made up. And I sit down in there and wait for the owner to come down to talk to me. And while I'm sitting there, the receptionist at this front desk, she starts screaming. And I'm like, what in the world's going on here? Here I am dressed in my finest clothes, my business suit and everything. And a mouse, but it was actually a rat, ran across her desk. And she goes, it's a rat, it's a rat. And I'm sitting in this conference room and I'm like, Lord, what are you doing? Why am I here? Oh my gosh. And, they're all in a clamor. So the owner comes in, he goes, you guys just handle that. Stop it. And he tells them to get over it. He comes in and he sits down and he starts talking to me. We talk for over an hour and a half. Next thing you know, he's offering me a job. So I told him to think about it. And we were debating salaries. We were going to start here. And if everything worked, we would talk about the next level of range. So it worked out well. I met the other owner. We sat for probably the whole day, all of us talking. And then the next thing that happens is I go to work. And it's only been about 3.5, 4 weeks. And he told me we'd wait at least a couple months and then we'd talk about the salary thing. And he's walking down the hallway, and there was one office in the back, there was my office, a bathroom, and then the reception area. So it wasn't like there was a lot of people down here, but he's coming from the back office, and he gets by my door and he says, Sandra, we need to talk about your raise, okay? And I'm like, okay, well, what do you think? I'm like, well, dude, you didn't even give me a moment here. You're just asking me right here in the hallway. I'm thinking, jeepers creepers, what am I going to do? Well, I gave out a number that was at least 20,000 more than I was making right then. At least, I believe it was 30, if I can remember correctly. And he goes, okay, go upstairs and tell Juan what you want, and he'll start setting it up for you next week. Guys, I never had anything like that happen to me. I called Peter. I said, man, we're tithing. We're not going to stop tithing. This is amazing. And so that was one of the second big ones. And I've got one more here that I want to tell you about. I apologize for going on for a while. Oh, okay. So Peter gets sick. Okay. He's got COPD. He's got all kinds of things going on. He's in and out of hospital with pneumonia off and on and the whole deal. And I'm sitting there one day when he's in one of these hospital times in his life. And I'm saying to myself, God, don't let him die. Don't let him die. God, please don't let him die. I just can't handle this, Lord. Well, the next thing I know, there is a man in the other room, and he has the same type of thing going on. He has, hold on here, it does this all the time in the mornings for us. He has COPD too. And I see his daughter over there, and she comes walking over, and she said, would you like for me to pray with you? And I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. I'm thinking, oh God, how about this? You sent me somebody to pray. I'm sitting here doing all this with Peter and praying by myself. Two are better than one. And we pray together. Well, a little while later, she's going to leave and this and that. And I didn't see her really leave, but I said to her father, I said, your daughter was here today and she was so sweet. She asked if she could pray with me. He looked at me like I'd lost my mind. And he goes, my daughter's not been here today. I said, yeah, she's been here today. She talked to me. She prayed with me. He said, my daughter's in North Carolina. My daughter wasn't here today. There's not been anybody in here to see me today. And my only conclusion was that God sent an angel for me to be praying over Peter with her that at that moment. That was the only thing that made sense because there was nobody there. So I'm thinking, I'm so glad that we're Christians. I'm glad we're in church. I'm glad we're giving our heart and our time and our money to the Lord. And I'm just so grateful. Gratitude just kept growing. So the last thing that happened was Peter died in 2021, September 23rd, 2021. And this came out of nowhere. Pastor Ho knows. I woke up and he was gone. And Pastor Ho was at my house in no time. And on top of that, Zach's best friend was at our house in less than 10 minutes with coffee, bagels, and comfort. And then the house started filling up. Betsy was there next. Kelly came by. The place was just filling up. And from that moment that Peter passed until at least a week later, God took such good care of me and my family. It was unreal. For the funeral, I did nothing. I got the people, I had all kinds of guests at my house. They got out of the house. I put on a dress and I went to the funeral and I did nothing but just sit and everybody took complete care of me. I didn't have to worry about what food was being served. I didn't have to do anything. I've never in my life been taken care of so well as that day. And it continued. People would continue to help me through all this. And then the next thing I know, I have to come up here and take care of my mom. And this I promise is the last one. But I'm working and my boss walks through and he goes, Sandra, he was Spanish and he was always very forceful. Sandra, you need to go take care of your mother. I said, there's nothing wrong with my mother. What are you talking about? Sandra, you have to go take care of your mother. Well, this went on for like a couple of weeks, and I looked at him and said, Victor, there's nothing wrong with my mother. He said, Sandra, you have to go take care of your mother. He said, what we're going to do is we're going to set you up for a year and a half. We're going to pay you full salary. It's going to be like you're here, but you're not here. You're going to go to West Virginia and take care of your mother. I said, my mother's not sick. He goes, I'm just telling you. Okay, all right, all right. So for a full year and a half, when I gradually get up here, my company paid me every penny that they had always paid me. And I was an executive. I was not an inexpensive employee, trust me. And he paid me full salary for a year and a half, checked on me, and it was just amazing the support I got. And then people just kept taking care of me while I took care of mom. And then mom passed this year, March 16th, I'm sorry, last year, 2025. And the way she went out and the people that came in here and gave her comfort and the hospice team, turns out that the head hospice nurse practitioner was a Christian. When she came to this house, I always had Christian music on. I always was trying to make it, nice and airy and comfortable here. They wouldn't take very much, but they would have a cup of coffee or they'd have tea when they came in to see mom or something. And she told me that she so loved coming to this house because there was a spirit here like no other houses she goes into. And she just knew that the Spirit of the Lord was in this house. Now, we can talk about money. We can talk about how you have to trust the Lord. Mom passes away, I get an inheritance, and I'm like, okay, well, now I don't have that year and a half of money coming, and I'm living on Peter's Social Security until I get my Social Security, which doubles Peter's, by the way. And I'm thinking, do I give a full tithe off of the full amount that I received? Do I do it in increments? And then I started getting all legal. And then I realized, and this is what helped me to do this, when Pastor Ho, I was already on the verge of figuring it out, but as he asked me to do this, it all came together. It's not what you're giving in the numbers and in the volume. It's what your heart's going to allow you to give, and you give it freely and completely without reservation, and you trust the Lord and lean not on your own understanding. Acknowledge him in all your ways, and he's going to make your path straight. They know that's one of my favorite favorite verses. But in addition to that, when you give, God comes back and pressed down and overflowing. The blessings come to you not just on monetarily rewards, but in the security of knowing that He is never going to leave you. He's never going to forsake you. He walks with you. He talks with you. He meets you where you are. He allows you to grow in His love, and then you pass that love on to other people. And I have been blessed up here with the sweetest people. I have met the sweetest people. And even yesterday, one of the ladies, we were in Bible class on Wednesday night, and she gets a call. Her mother's got an episode going on. She leaves, and her mother dies that night. And we all gather around, we're all talking about it, and we go to the viewing, which was last night, I believe, or the night before last. And she said, I picked up one of the ladies that can't, of course she can't drive and she's older, so I pick her up and take her, and we get there. And she's only known me for what, 2.5 years now, or even less, maybe even. And she says to me, I've thought so much about you in the last couple of days, knowing how you lost your mother too. And I thought, this is another example of iron will sharpen iron. I'll be able to help her and she'll be able to help me. But even in a remote night when a friend's mother passes away, the Lord's still working with you. So I'm just encouraging you that, don't be afraid to give to God. Don't be afraid to give Him your time, your ties, your heart, and your life. Because when you do that, He blesses you beyond all measure. And I'll stop.